So I'm not sure if you guys know this, but there's this niche little superhero movie coming out soon called The Batman. Now I've loved Batman and Batman related characters for as long as I can remember in my life. And his portrayal in movies is always hard to discuss because Bruce Wayne and Batman mean very different things to a lot of different people. That's why when Robert Pattinson was named as the new Batman, the reaction was largely, "What the hell? From Twilight? The pale guy who made that stupid ass face when he saw Bella?" And, "Have you seen Good Time or The Lighthouse? He beats off for like 5 minutes in that movie. This is gonna be sick." And I find myself in the latter. However, this prompted me to think of how many times I've actually enjoyed an actor's portrayal because I can be pretty picky when it comes to my Batman. I'm 1,000,000% sure I'm not the first person to make a video like this, but I've only started like a year ago and I want to talk about Batman. I'm recording this a few weeks before the new movie comes out, but I'm gonna add my thoughts about it at the end of this video after I've seen all 3 hours of it, probably twice. Also, if you could push these little buttons that alleviate my anxiety by liking and subscribing, please do. Now before we discuss, let's establish what it means to be a good Batman. The main focus of this video is going to be live action portrayals of Batman, because animation and live action are two very different avenues to bring Batman to life. A proper Batman needs to have this quiet, never went to therapy to address my parents' death about him. Not in a vindictive way, but in a nobody's losing any more parents on my watch kind of way. He also needs to be really fucking smart, which is where a lot of performances as Batman lack for me. The portrayal of Bruce Wayne can be just as difficult, to be fair. Bruce needs to have this hollow appearance to himself. Bruce Wayne a lot of the times is simply just an avenue for Batman to exist. Kind of like he's not even a real person, but an embodiment of what he thinks his purpose is. That doesn't mean he needs to be boring or uncharismatic. It just needs to feel hollow for the audience because we know about his double life. It's okay for Bruce to live a fuckboy lifestyle or even have people close to him, as long as the people he has genuine connections with either care about justice like him or have dark ass lives just like him. Anyways, let's start this video off with the easiest Batman to discuss. Kevin Conroy. Okay, here he is, you can shut up about it. Any nerd who has spent too much of their life watching cartoon versions of Batman will always try to win internet points by saying, "Kevin Conroy is the best Batman." And you know what? I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Kevin Conroy with just his voice perfectly encapsulates what it's like to read any panel in a Batman comic. If you don't already hear his voice when reading, then you need to binge all of the animated series and Justice League just to start. You could chalk it up to nostalgia and how long he's been a part of our lives, but he has such a dynamic handle of his voice when speaking as Bruce or Batman that fits right at home for both. Which, as we'll learn later, is a really difficult part of playing the character. That has not and will not ever be an issue if old Kevin here is involved in the production.
I could have escaped any time, but I thought I'd stick around to keep an eye on you clowns.
He is the best Batman the same way that Mark Hamill is the best Joker. They both did it perfectly really early on, so even if it's animated, it's the gold standard. 7 out of 7, best Batman, but let's move on to the actual point of the video. Adam West. I don't really have that much to say about Adam West because as much as I am a boomer at heart, I'm not old enough to really speak on his performance. It kinda just feels like a different character in a different time period, so it's difficult to compare him to the other version. I did watch the movie when I first started exploring the comic book world outside of cartoons when I was a teenager, and it was entertaining. It's a popular bit amongst Batman fans, but this fool really has shark repellent in his belt. That is dumb as hell, but it will never stop making me bust up laughing. Goofy ass Batman, 3 out of 7. Not for me, but not bad, you know? Michael Keaton. So, my little hipster ass opinion growing up as a teen through the Dark Knight era was always to say, well actually Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman. He really plays both roles as Bruce and Batman better than most. And as an adult, my opinion has not changed in the slightest. So both the Keaton/Burton movies came out before I was born, but my parents had this magical little device called a VCR. And while I didn't need to see Danny DeVito's penguin-ass face as a toddler, I watched these and the Schumacher movies a lot as a kid. Man, fuck Cocomelon. I was watching creepy-ass Jack Nicholson and crushing on Michelle Pfeiffer. My point being is these performances have stayed with me the longest in life and have a large impact on what being Batman means to me. So while that presents a little bit of a bias, goddamn is Keaton good at being Bruce. His performance as Batman isn't the greatest ever, but it was the late 80s and early 90s, so we're still establishing stuff at this point. Keaton does a great job of playing somebody who isn't boring to watch, but has all the details of Bruce keeping attachment at arm's length to focus on Gotham, as his priority should be, at least in his opinion. And this isn't to say that Keaton is a bad Batman. He's about his business and makes thugs kinda shit themselves, and that's pretty important. I love when Batman doesn't feel like a big dumb cape, but a figure that beats the shit out of you when you're least expected. Michael Keaton is a phenomenal Batman, and my favorite, for now. 6 out of 7, not as hot as Robert Pattinson. Next! Val Kilmer. So before we get into these next two Batman, let me establish something. I fucking love the Schumacher Batman movie. I can't really tell you if it's ironic or unironic to be honest because I know narratively they are a little lacking, but the world of Gotham he created was so vastly different than what people thought of the Batman mythos then and what they think of it now. The campiness of these movies is great, and if you remember not liking them, go back and check them out, and realize it's more of like a little gay Batman dream that's fun and hilarious, and maybe you'll enjoy it more. Also, this movie introduced Kiss from a Rose by Seal, making it an instant classic. Also, one of my favorite bits of trivia from this movie is that Tommy Lee Jones fucking hates this movie and Jim Carrey probably to this day. It's probably a little telling that I'm talking more about the movie than Val Kilmer himself, but either way, Kilmer and Clooney are the only Batman to have only one appearance, so it's more difficult to grade them as they're little glimpses into what these actors try to do with these characters. I'm not really a big fan of Kilmer's Batman because there isn't much depth as to why he does what he does. A lot of his motivation is about Dr. Meridian or whatever, and it's rare that you can make Batman's romance to a normal person interesting. However, his version of Bruce is one of the more entertaining to watch. He's not a tortured billionaire, but this fool is definitely a billionaire in the way he acts. Not too good, not too bad, 3 out of 7. George Clooney. So Batman and Robin is one of my favorite Batman movies.
Is that the Uma Thurman movie?
Yes, it is, and Schumacher took all that crazy shit from the first movie and made this the wackiest 2 hours of your life. Either way, I don't know if it's just being a child of the 90s, but George Clooney is probably the funniest Batman to me. He was literally always just a celebrity people fawned over, so when I watch these movies, I don't really see a character. I just see fucking George Clooney. That being said, I like his Batman. His coolness while he's wearing the suit is fitting, and I really enjoy that he has a Robin to bounce off of and tell dumbass jokes.
Hey, Sketch!
You break it, you buy it.
Grab the gem! Kill the heroes!
This movie is a little gay fever dream, and if any actor is fitting for Batman in this wild setting, it's the guy that everybody wanted to bang in the 90s. I really gotta make a whole video about this one because I've been watching this movie my whole life. Just like Kilmer, Clooney is not great, not bad, but I like him a little bit more. He really does play a fuckboy pretty well, and given a lot of this movie is unnecessarily horny, he's perfect for this version of this character and no other. 4 out of 7.
Enough monkey business. We've got work to do.
Monkey work.
Christian Bale. So I didn't know if I would catch flack for this because Christian Bale's version has always been the most divisive pick on my time on the internet, but I don't really like this version of Batman. He's still probably one of the best portrayals, but it's just a personal preference for me. Bale is a pretty fucking good Batman despite the whole voice thing, but he is a pretty forgettable Bruce. The development Nolan gave Bruce in Batman Begins is really good. It's an underrated movie to be honest. However, The Dark Knight kind of feels like a movie too big to focus on fleshing out Bale's version of Batman. This movie does a phenomenal job of continuing Batman's no-kill rule as well as making Batman more interesting, but Bruce kinda takes a backseat in this one a little bit. He spends too much time in this movie being jealous and wanting fucking Maggie Gyllenhaal.
And finally, I must say that Maggie Gyllenhaal was weak as the love interest because I didn't buy her at all. And
I agree with you there. I wasn't feeling her at all. A role like that, you need to get a Halle Berry, Beyonce, somebody like that, even a sister. Just throw them up in it. Somebody fine. She wasn't it. You got me there.
Bruce's motivation in this movie is driven by probably the least interesting character present, while Batman is having a huge morality battle with his greatest enemy. It's a little lacking from the human aspect of it. And after all that, the last movie kind of just happens. I've seen The Dark Knight Rises like 6 times and I still don't really know what's going on besides how great Tom Hardy's stupid ass voice is. I love when both of them interact because you can't hear a goddamn thing either of them are saying.
You were excommunicated by a gang of psychopaths.
I am the League of Shadows. I am here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
Circling back to Batman Begins though, it really is a great adaptation showing young Bruce push through the trauma of losing his parents and becoming the embodiment of that pain. That development kinda gets pushed to the side, but it's not really a bad thing when the sequel sets the standard for comic book movies to the point that it barely even feels like one. Considering all the Batman nipples in the world, I probably should have brought this up earlier, but Batsuits and Batmobiles don't really play a factor for me, but I really don't like the Dark Knight suit. Yeah, it's iconic, whatever, but for 2005 to 2012, I think it should be a little better. It really doesn't take anything away from it, but look at this dude.
Wait till you see the... no.
Anyways, he's not my favorite, but still pretty fucking good, 5 out of 7. Anyways, what's next? Ben Affleck. Aw fuck, I forgot this one happened. God damn it, I don't want to talk about this. The first time I ever struggled being a big old Batman show is when the decision to cast Affleck was first announced. I already knew it was going to be pretty trash, but I was hopeful. And then Batman vs Superman came out and I just did not even watch it. I didn't particularly like Man of Steel and I didn't feel like spending the money. Also, by everyone else's account, it was pretty fucking bad, so why would I want to? They hired the most divorced man in Hollywood to play my favorite character. I was pissed.
Naveen, why did you unmatch me? It's me.
However, I am someone who spends a lot of time watching superhero shit when I have free time, and I eventually watched Batman vs Spooderman in parts throughout the year. And I can't help but to die of fucking laughter at the fact that they made Bruce and Clark's mom's names a plot point. The fact that they're both named Martha has always been a dumb piece of trivia for nerds, not a plot development.
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name.
Bro, I think I fucked up my soup.
I've seen this movie and Justice League about twice each over multiple viewings because I can never sit through the whole thing. I have seen Affleck a lot in Suicide Squad though. That movie gives me brain rot, but I've watched it like 10 times. It's so bad I can't look away. But yeah, he was pretty dumb in that movie too. I did like how he just fucking decks Margot Robbie in the face. Doesn't really feel like Batman to me, but it's pretty hilarious to see. So I haven't said it out loud yet, but you all know this is probably the worst portrayal. Batman flaunting his money is rarely ever funny, and they made it a point to bring it up as often as possible. These jokes trigger my fight or flight, and I'm leaning towards fight. Unfortunately, as a man with terrible vision who never learned how to fight, I would probably just pull a gun on him. Which is again, unfortunately, what this fucking chud would do. Fucking Call of Duty ass Batman, man. I hate this version. 1 out of 7, he's ass. And now the most recent actor to take on the role. I've been waiting this whole video to talk about this movie. The kid from Joker. This one sucks, to be honest. He's a bad Bruce and even This one sucks, to be honest. He's a bad Bruce and even worse Batman. This loser just let Joker roam the street and try to steal his dad. Fight back, coward, goddamn. 2 out of 7, still better than Affleck. Hey, so this is me like a couple weeks later. I just watched The Batman and it's like everything I've ever wanted in a Batman movie. Like it honestly feels like Matt Reeves made this version of Batman for me and fans like me. I watched it twice in 24 hours and it's all I can think about. So before I talk about Robert Pattinson, let me just like gush about this movie for like a minute, okay? Spoiler warning, I guess. I'm not really gonna talk about the story, but still, that shit was good too. It's really not that complicated, people are just dumb. Okay? Go. So, I was most excited to see Paul Dano in this movie and goddamn is he exactly how I wanted him to be. He's creepy in all the best ways and he's the perfect tell your friends not to come to school tomorrow character for a Batman movie. Chef's kiss. The music and the city in this movie are insane to me. The score has a perfect revamped Batman theme that sounds like it's constantly lurking, just like the Batman. Chef's kiss. I typically don't care about romance arcs with Batman, but Zoe Kravitz and Rob Pat had great chemistry and I was surprised I wanted to see even more. Chef's kiss. The Penguin? Kef's chiff. The Batmobile scene? Chef's kiss. Robert Pattinson is Batman? Chef's fucking kiss. This has become my favorite comic book movie of all time and one of my overall favorite movies of all time. Because that's exactly what this is. It's a comic book movie. No quirky takes, no over-the-top emphasis on making him realistic, no fucking Ben Affleck, just Batman. 7 out of 7, it's not perfect, but I loved it enough to give it the perfect score. Anyways, Robert Pattinson's like a really good Batman. You know, because that was like the point of the video. So, I was thinking of good ways to describe him while I was watching, and since I had been editing this video, I realized that I don't have to. If you go to this time earlier in the video, the way I described my ideal Batman is exactly how Matt Reeves presented him. A husk of a man with some semblance of life there, and a figure devoted to fighting for his purpose while also having a very specific morality about him. And that's what I'll say best describes this new portrayal. This is a very specific Batman. Specific in the way that he's relatively new, so he's still working through a lot of what it means to be Batman. But he has been him for 2 years, so he knows a decent amount about Gotham and how to deal with its criminals. I love that he already has an established relationship with Selina and that he's already fought a couple of villains. I don't need everything explained, it's okay for Bruce to have a story before the movie starts. Also, this guy is so fucking sad. There was this tweet that came out of Matt Reeves saying that this version is constantly listening to like The Cure and Beach House. And while I was watching, I was thinking, was that a shitpost or is Matt Reeves really giving me the sad boy Bruce that I've wanted since I was a kid? And then Something in the Way by Nirvana came on and I was like, no yeah, this guy's a little emo sad boy and I love it. He's constantly making people uncomfortable and you can see in his eyes that he's awkward too. He's a weirdo. He doesn't fit in. Have you ever seen him without his eye makeup? That's weird. This Batman also fucking hates guns. If there's a protest against the Second Amendment, you'd bet your ass you'd see Edward there for sure. Every time he gets shot in this movie, he gets even more pissed. That's another aspect of this version I loved. This dude is fucking pissed. This Batman is smart, but he's not really wise yet. He's fueled by his rage and his angst. Another thing I loved, this guy is super smart, and how much work he does to record everything he sees and plan ahead is classic Batman. Prep time is one of Batman's main things, and this guy is like Mr. Prep Time compared to the others. So, it's weird to score this because all the other Batman are done with their roles, except Michael Keaton. I guess they're bringing him back, and what the fuck is up with that? Is he? Anyway, this Batman is very much at the beginning of his story arc, so this could change, but this movie kept giving me reasons to trust Matt Reeves' decisions. 7 out of 7. Like I predicted, my new favorite Batman and my new favorite Batman movie. Hey, thanks again for watching. This is all obviously subjective, but as somebody who's had gripes with each version of this iconic character, I'm glad I finally have one that feels like it was made with fans like me in mind. Anyways, I have some brooding to go do because I have to wait like 4 years until the next movie comes out. So anyways, thanks.